What's up, guys? I'm your host. You can call me Storm, and today we'll be starting a new series. We're aiming to make a 2D top-down RPG game in Unity. Let's get this started by making a new project. So browse your location of where you would like to save your project, which I've already done here. And when you create a new project, make sure you set the defaults to be 2D, and then create. Alright, once that's done, we would click on your main camera and make the Z to -50. Alright, so in today's episode, we will be doing setting up the player and getting him moving around on the screen. So to start off with, let's just create our sprite sheet, which is be the base for what all the tiles and all the stuff that we are using to make this game. So we want our tiles to be 16 by 16, and usually sorry about that. Alright, so usually you'll find that whenever you create a sprite sheet, the defaults you use is FF00, FF, and 7F, 00, 7F. So the way we'll start by making this easier in Photoshop, which I'm pretty sure you can do this in most editors like Paint.net, all that. Not too sure about Paint. Make a 16 by 16 tile, because that's how big our tiles are going to be. And we'll select our color here to be FF00FF. And set that here. And then our second color is 7F007F. Alright, so these are just the defaults in game making that people abide by. Alright, so what we're going to do now that we have this is we're going to go edit, define pattern, and I'd like to call it tile 16 by 16. Alright, if we come here, we unlock our background layer by double clicking on it and then calling it whatever you want. I'll just keep it as sprite sheet. Double click on it again, you'll bring up your blending styles, blending option tabs. If you go down to pattern overlay, check that, and you'll see if we click here, we have our pattern. This one, 16 by 16. Sorry, I had an 8 by 8 here before from my other project. So you press OK, and you'll see, like, if you get your pencil out and you draw, you won't be able to see anything you're drawing. It's because the pattern's still there and it's overriding everything you've drawn. So if you right click and you rasterize layer style, it'll make it so you can draw on it. Alright, I'm just going to make a really basic player. We'll upgrade this later with directions and all that. For the players, I'm thinking we'll have a 32 by 32 a 32 by 32. You can delete that because the way Unity works with sprites, you don't need to set like pink to be alpha. So you can just go ahead and delete that. And I'm going to draw a very basic sprite. I'll be back once I've done that. Alright, I'm back. Okay, so please take note, I am not a pixel artist or any type of artist really. I am generally more code. Alright, let's continue. So you've got your sprite sheet, and here I have made our 32 by 32 sprite of our player, and let's get this into Unity. So in Unity, I like to keep things nice and clean. This is a preference, by the way, so I'll have my code folder and then my resources folder for audio, anything aesthetic rather than things needed, and then prefabs folder. So whoops, sorry, prefabs folder, so for instantiating tiles and pretty much all that. We'll get more into that as we progress through the series. So in Photoshop, let's save our sprite sheet resources, and then I like to call sprite sheets because maybe we'll want more than just one sprite sheet in the future. I will show you how to do that, not right now though. So just sprite sheet main. Of course, this is all preference what you want to call it. So you see here, make this multiple, and if we go to sprite editor and we slice it in sprites of 16, no, it's not what I meant. Make it a grid and make the pixel size 16 by 16, and we can slice it. So I'll show you how we use these in a second, but basically it will load each and every tile you make, and I'll show you how we can make them bigger. So on the player, you see he's more than just the one sprite, so we delete these and we'll click on the bottom left and we'll make it width 32 and height 32. Okay, and then you just click exit and apply. I like making this point, and I always just out of preference put that 4096 and format as true color. So now we've got our sprite sheet in. Let's create a new empty game object and we'll call this player, and under player we will drag our sprite sheet and put it under player. As you see, we've got this. Now if we go to here, you see all pink. So these are all our sprites that we've just sliced, as you see. So if we come down to the bottom, you'll see sprite sheet main. So this is our player. We can import our player, and our player's right there. So you can go into your game and firstly change this to 16 because all our tiles are 16 by 16. We'll just make them bigger. All right. As you see, so you click play, our player's there. Okay. Next thing on our player, we want to add a rigid body 2D. We want to make gravity scale 0, and we'll also add collider, box collider 2D. Come to scene, you'll see it better. And I'm only wanting it for his legs area because when you walk, you don't collide with your head, you collide with your entire main body. So we'll make it his legs area is his collision area. So we'll just edit y to be -0.5, x to be 0.75, and y to be 0. Sorry, I made this -0.65. Okay, we have our box collider done. So he will collide with any collisions, which I'll show in a second. Make sure, I'll also add one more folder for levels. So you have your main menu, and then you can have your main level, etc., whatever levels you had. This is, again, preference. So I'll just call this level main underscore level. All right. So if we go to our code folder and we add a new C# script, actually no, sorry, OCD about being neat, sorry. So folder, and we'll call this entities. Now in entities, we'll create a new folder, player, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a base class for all entities, and in player we'll have a C# script for player. So open both of them up. Come on. Alright. Remove the comments because you don't need them. And open up your entity. Actually, I need to rename that. Entity. Sorry about that. When you do that, you're going to get an error as you rename this. So just call that entity. So this will act as a base class for which we'll instantiate each of these. So if we just make this entity, now we won't be adding entity to any class, so we need to make sure that this is an abstract class. I'll explain all of this in a second. So when we make an abstract class, we make it a, sorry about that, had a phone call. Okay, so basically what abstract means is it's a class that can't be instantiated directly. It has to have a child class, therefore being your player or a mob or whatever you use. So you would add the player to whatever you're instantiating, you never add the entity. And basically everything that's abstract, so if I did a public abstract void, I'll just do abstract, don't write this down, this is just for demonstration purposes. You would do abstract void and then you do move int x, int y, right? And so you see up here how we have our braces, brackets, whatever, braces, and when it's just a normal void. So this is going to be called from the entity class, but here we require that player has, well, player has to, because it's abstract, so you have to have your move function. So you'd have to do your void move int x, int y. All right, and then you do it in your player class. But we don't need that just yet. Now this player class is going to be really basic until we start doing things. So this entity class is going to do nothing at the moment until we start adding things, as this is just a basic setup to see that your player can move around and works. So what we need to do is, we'll just do this really basically. So we want to do an if, I'll explain this in a second, input.get key. So yeah, no, I'll explain in a sec. So key code.w or input.get key code dot up arrow. Okay, so we can copy this 3 times and just change this to ws a d, and this can be down arrow, left arrow, and right arrow. Alright, so in here basically what we want to do just really quickly is rigid body 2D dot transform dot position plus equals vector 3 dot up times time dot delta time. Actually in entity we'll add a public float speed. Actually no, make that protected. I'll explain that in a sec. Protected float speed. So we'll do times speed times time dot delta time. And if we just copy this, so we can make this down, left, and we can make this right. Okay, I'll go back to here for a sec. So when you're making things, you can have a public float speed, or you can have a private float speed. So because it's an abstract class, when you do protected is like private in the fact that you can not see it from any other class except classes that are instantiated from entity. So here, see, it's instantiated from entity. Extends entity, sorry. So when we do public, it means any class can access it by using entity dot speed, right? I'll just call it speed 2 just so you can see. We can call it from any class, so by entity dot speed 2 we can access it from anything. Private means that we can't access it from any class ever. So even if it's extends entity, you can't access it. So protected is private, except for the fact that any classes that extend it can access that variable. So if we save this, go back to Unity, make sure we have no errors. We have no errors. We go to player, and we give the player this. Actually, no, sorry. Make this public. Just forgot about that. I'm sorry. We were going to set this here. So no errors. We can set the speed. We'll set it to 5 for now. So if we click play, you'll see that we can move our player around. Alright. Alright, perfect. Okay. Alright, that's good. I've been Storm. That's episode 1, and we'll get into episode 2 next time. Adios.